It's time for Off the Record, On the Rocks. Each episode, Michael Toner and Ankarina Lara break down the latest news on all things Web3, AI, metaverse, and crypto, filtering out noise and connecting dots as we pour ourselves into the future.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another Off the Record, On the Rocks with my good friend, Mr. Ankarina Lara. How are you doing, sir?
I mean, with our new sound beds, I'm feeling very relaxed. I'm feeling island vibes, late summer, but you know what? It's still warm. Still feels like you can get out and get a little sun.
Yeah, pull up a chair. We're going to go from the macro down to the local. We're going to cover everything happening in the market, in the economy. When you say, feeling the relax, it's late summer, end of August. I think we're right in between the two blue moons. It's a long August. It's always a long, weird month. Staring down the barrel of September, waiting for Labor Day here in the States. It's been a busy week though. We've got a lot going on in the political landscape, the GOP, their national debate, our former president and his top attorney, former Times Man of the Year, turning himself in at the Fulton County Jail. Meanwhile, the SEC is still getting work done on Capitol Hill. There's a couple of pending announcements coming. You got lots of crypto news, lots of institutional stuff still moving. No word yet on the ETFs. What's your take? Last full week in August.
Yeah, I was looking a lot to Wyoming. We were talking about the Tetons at the end of our last recording because all the Fed boys were heading out to fly fish and have some steaks, have a little boot scoot and talk about what's coming next. And sounds like all the bellwethers are blowing towards Mr. Powell saying we're going to keep the rates high and we might even raise them further, which to me, I guess signals that at a time when people are trying to accumulate cryptocurrency, when big companies are readying big ETF products, maybe it's time to make money more expensive. Maybe borrowing against those kinds of investments is going to cost you a little extra, and the United States wants to hedge that. Yeah. Feels like that's happening right now.
From this afternoon, Jerome Powell coming out of Wyoming, according to Bloomberg, the Fed probably needs at least, quote, one more rate increase. So this is, probably where we're at. We're going to go one more rate increase. Former Treasury chief reiterates view yields will head higher. So yeah, they're going to raise interest rates at least once more. And what does that mean? That we're kind of still in this holding pattern. Inflation hasn't come down far enough. Job market is still hot. But what does that mean in terms of borrowing, accumulating? This is where, let's zoom out all the way out. We've talked a lot about the de-dollarization. And we've talked about, over the summer here, just within the past 30, 60 days, the BRIC countries saying formally that they were going to abandon the US dollar for international settlement, these transactions, and lean towards other currencies. We've talked about the yuan, we've talked about the digital yuan, the digital ruble. I don't know if you want your hot take here, but the BRIC countries were supposed to come together, and there were some absent countries who may need to be accumulating some cryptocurrency.
Yeah, the BRICS, we talked about the BRIC countries because they came out hard. This was months ago. And they actually, I think they completed a transaction, which was the shot over the bow. There was some deal that was done. Maybe it was between Russia and China. It was between two of the countries, and the dollar wasn't used. That was the first shot. And you think, and then when you look at the composition, right? I mean, BRIC is an acronym. So you're looking at Brazil and Russia. I believe the I is India, the C, China. And now I want to say that they're looking to bringing in Saudi Arabia. And I want to say some of the more oil-rich countries in the Middle East are going to be added into this new, whatever they're going to end up calling it, if it stays BRICS, And they have these meetings. And the meeting was in South Africa, this most recent one. There was a lot of talk because Xi Jinping was supposed to be there in person, which is a big deal. Putin was supposed to be there in person. Last minute couldn't come, right? Because they didn't want to have to arrest him or whatever in Johannesburg. There was some great article about there was a group of people waiting on the runway to arrest him if he showed up, because he, I guess, has an Interpol crime alert for him for the war crimes from Ukraine. So there was a team there. He didn't show. So Putin's not there. He joins via Zoom or virtually, they say. And then Jinping, who's there, doesn't go to the meeting. He like has another meeting and he attends virtually, which is also very interesting. So it makes me wonder, gosh, there's this whole collection of countries, but two of them aren't there. And they're the two who have had a lot of intrigue, especially when we talk about stuff on our show, because they've been involved not only in the incursion in Ukraine, but they all have these little tethers and hands in the natural resources required to create technology, and they buy and sell it to each other. So it's like of all these, like not all these things are like the other. Two of them are playing a little different in this little brick court. And I was wondering, is that a signal for the kind of the fracturing? Is that why the Saudi Arabian money is going to come in? Like, what is it about BRICS that's sort of shaky now? It feels like there's a shaky foundation.
You were still laying out a lot of stuff in the past week, and you mentioned Putin, you mentioned Russia absent at this meeting. You said, have you been involved in? And the first thing that came to my mind was, have you been involved in planes falling out of the sky? So maybe one reason why he wasn't at the meeting is he had to take care of our dear friend Prigozhin, and needed to just oversee things in the meantime. But talk about a headline that nobody is surprised, and everybody is just, including Biden, being quoted almost immediately saying nothing happens in Russia without Putin knowing about it.
Yeah.
Just everyone kind of is, you knew it was coming. It is important to the storyline, I think, because it is this, squashing of any insurrection against Putin and his power. And if he's now still negotiating what that, what is Russia's new economy going to look like? And is it going to be built on a digital currency backed with the other BRIC countries? Is it going to be built on a digital ruble? How much beholden are they going to be to the US dollar? It's a whole geopolitical landscape playing out, and he needed to take care of the one guy who tried to kill him.
No, the one guy who just tried to have a CNN article written about how he was defiant. I mean, to even like go so far as to say he was trying to kill him, I think is a stretch. Like, you just turn your car 180 degrees and face it the other direction. Hey, you might as well never get an airplane again. I mean, I actually think that they were trying to time that accident at the same time they smashed that rocket into the moon. Like, it would have been a perfect way to cover up the Wagner news. If you crash the moon rocket famously,
got to be related.
And it's just like, oh, these other things are going down. And there's some other general they bring up who's like the head of aerospace, and he's going to be fired too. And like, obviously someone has to get fired for this rocket crashing into the moon. They can't let India take fourth place on the moon. Like, India India, I mean, look, for our listeners, we've been talking a lot about the influence of these different countries. In the last few months, we call it this entire year, I would say, India has been really popping into the whole geopolitical landscape talk
100%.
As it pertains to technology, as it pertains to crypto, to AI. Like, these articles, look, India has more humans in this country than any other country in the world. India is on the South Pole of the moon, presumably drilling for the ice and the water to demonstrate that we can like land there instead of colonies. Like, that's real like R&D that Elon Musk can get behind, right? He wants to know, how can we set up colonies on planets? And now it's such a hot topic, all of this excitement, that now all these articles are hitting that the exchanges, all these cryptocurrency exchanges, all these methods of transacting, there's peer-to-peer networks, there's gaming, play to earn, and they're all now rife with scamming activity. And that's how you know that a market is really taking off, right? This is like, play it back here in the States. The US scammers who really kind of started up around 2017, 2018, where you really did have those, QR code on the screen, join now live broadcast. Vitalik Buterin is talking, send me some ether and I'll send you back 5 times because it's a special airdrop promo. Like, that is now happening in India. So that's how you know that this market is red hot. So to me, it feels like, of all the things, and then you have, is it 2 or 1 Indian Americans on the GOP stage?
Yeah, it's a really great observation. And we have talked about it. You've got a lot of the big CEOs. You've got Nadella succeeding Steve Ballmer from 2014 now as the CEO of Microsoft. You've got Sundar over at Google. These are folks that are American business executives of Indian descent. And yes, to your point, now you've got a rising star in the GOP who was by all accounts, the winner of the first GOP debate with Vivek. And what does that look like now when you're talking about politics and technology and money and governments and being able to have the equipment and the technology to land a rocket on the moon? You kind of glossed over it, but in the past week, India landed on the moon.
Yeah.
So not to be putting a fine tip on it, but I think it's a real force in the geopolitical landscape, both from the business side of things and now, at least here in the in the States, with a front-running GOP candidate who is Indian.
And what was disappointing, however, because it is very exciting, everything we've just outlined, what was disappointing was not one person on the GOP stage talked at all about cryptocurrency. I thought that was an opportunity where, but as I play it back and kind of think about the things they did touch on and talk about, there's only so many talking points you can really throw, I guess, in a first debate. And as I think about the implications, I guess, of talking about cryptocurrency, which then makes you have to start talking about the economy, and everyone's so quick on that stage to talk about Biden's economic, headwinds and these things coming. It's all very party line critique. When it comes down to it, the Federal Reserve and Jerome Powell aren't really supposed to be operating like on party lines, right? They're sort of managing the economy. So I see how you couldn't maybe go that hard into that subject, because it sort of takes you away from attacking the current administration and starts attacking like America generally.
Right.
So, that's not like, this can be a delicate convo to bring in this talk. But I'm hoping by the second and third debates that this is something that comes up, because again, we talked about this before. They all want to accept campaign donations. And if the government won't tell them how to receive crypto, they're not going to make as much money during the cycle as they possibly could. So I feel like we're just at that moment where as soon as the government says, oh, here's what crypto is in black and white, well, then maybe these GOP hopefuls will be on the stage actually addressing that up front.
I'm just going to play something out. This is completely somewhat off topic, but it's kind of, I guess we haven't played this scenario in a little
Friday.
while. When you talk about like what's happening in terms of, crypto within India, one of the largest populations, or one of the largest populations, that there's a growing learning curve around crypto, people buying in. And at the same time, we talked about these business executives. We talked about now a GOP candidate. You referenced they're going to want to raise money in crypto. The international implications here of now all of a sudden, folks who've got a little ETH, a little Dogecoin, a little XRP, that they're buying and acquiring. And as these things are going up over the next, let's say 18 months, after the next interest rate, after the regulation, now all of a sudden you've got an international payment mechanism where folks could be donating to their favorite candidate from all over the world. That's a whole nother ballgame that we haven't talked about in terms of politics and money and how you get elected. And now all of a sudden you could have folks who, maybe live in India or live in the UK or live in Japan or wherever they might be, and they could be transferring ETH via a wallet to a US-based political action committee that's supporting a candidate. So that there's a whole implication there that we haven't played through, but I just went from if you can now raise money globally. Effectively.
And what are the implications of that, like you just said, which if you start to see, as we're seeing these whale wallets, as people refer to them as, a whale wallet, meaning a large amount of crypto that's sitting in a wallet somewhere that hasn't really done anything in some long period of time. They talk about whales waking up. Well, let's go right to what you're about to say.
Let's get to this 3 billion bag. We had this 3 billion bag. So where we're going here is this headline broke about somebody moving a $3.1 billion bag.
And a lot of money.
And the moment I saw it, I was like, I've seen that number before. Like I literally 3.1. Yeah. And I go to Google it, and the screenshot that I sent you is hilarious because it's like all of these headlines, and they go back to 2019. And when you follow the money, you follow the thread from 2019. It was first about scams in Silk Road and the $3.1 billion bag that got confiscated. And then the next one was from 2022, FTX collapse owes nearly $3.1 billion to the top 50 creditors. And then it was 2022, November 2022, Fed announces seizure of $3 billion in Bitcoin stolen a decade ago. And then here's the $3.1 billion bag. This is, you can't make this up.
And what if that $3.1 million bag just ends up in some super PAC somewhere, right? If you're saying it's just, and the money is not supposed to, there's not supposed to be international interest meddling with the United States elections. Like, God forbid someone tracks some wallet back to, a Russian national. They were trying to track Facebook ads to Russian nationals.
That's right.
Like, and they could kind of get there. They could show that the origin, right? You could see the original IP addresses, but really was any large scale, enforcements played out? Not really, right? It's really hard to go find people who are good at hiding their identity online. So if you can place Facebook ads and buy them and do that internationally, then gosh, seems like it'd be really easy to be moving lots of these hidden wallets, unless the government says, oh, here are the rules around how you can make donations, and you have to actually name yourself. You almost have to dox yourself. And oh, by the way, don't think of it as don't think of it as doxing. Just think of it as engaging with the United States government, because you're going to use FedNow or this other thing, and you're going to know who you are. And here's your 10 fingerprints, and Office of Homeland Security approves, and now the money moves in, and it's crypto, and it's great, and it can be taxed. But yeah, a 3.1 serious bag moving around could be covering up any one of those debts you just mentioned. It could be the Department of Justice.
We are just getting too good at this, honestly. I'm looking at a headline from Jason Derrick at Crypto News. This is BlackRock's BTC wallet sparks concerns. And many of the concerns are talking about that BlackRock's $10 trillion war chest has coupled with a, quote, revolving door relationship with the White House and a history of financing political campaigns. BlackRock boasts power and influence across corporate America and Washington, the likes of which are unrivaled. Well done, Jason. Well done. Well said. Honestly, August 24th, this is yesterday's headline. And I'm looking at that and saying, yeah, it's what we're talking about here. When all of a sudden that $3 billion bag ends up, who's going to be left holding the bag? And
it's going to be like musical chairs, and then the music's going to stop, and someone's not going to have a seat, and they're going to be out. Like, they're going to be gone. Like that $3.1 billion bag too. It's like that hot potato, right? Because someone's going to take responsibility for it.
Yeah.
And it's going to either be a story that's going to be a heroic one, like we are making whole these investors who lost money, or making whole the original this or the original that, or it's going to be a story of, hey, this was money that was absconded because of some nefarious means. We, the United States government, are moving this to manage this. And it's going to be used as an evidence and like a piece of evidence entered into some further case, right? Because we really haven't seen this future place where a crypto wallet address is entered into evidence. I mean, I'm assuming that during these, when you seize things, right, there's some evidentiary report where there's investigation, and there must be some listing of evidence seized and assets, and there's going to be just like an OX address, basically, right? And it's going to say, this is what was seized. Like, is it on a thumb drive? Doesn't even really matter, right? It's just this address, and they're going to move it, and then they're going to start following it and telling these stories around, and whatever story they tell is the story that's true, because the owner of the wallet, who is the only person who actually knows, or the only group of people who know where the money came from. So if you're the only people who know, you can say whatever story you want. So if it does end up on BlackRock's bottom line as them just accumulating to get ready for their ETF, it makes total sense. Even if it did come from Silk Road and got handed over to them just as a little favor, right? It's just yet another weird data point that it's almost deliberately obfuscated. It's always 3 billion. It's always 3.1.
Well, and a little bit of a different point. I mean, I think that's one piece of it. We're talking about the money, but you started to talk about like Facebook ads and having been here before in the political landscape. And I actually point to, the last round of elections where most Americans were at least hearing glimpses of the algorithm. Like when we talk about the algorithm, when we talk about AI, here on the show and how people learn about it, and neural engine and the different words that get used to describe natural language, chat GPT entering the the vernacular 9-10 months ago now. And people understand or think they have an understanding of what that means. I really credit that last election cycle for people understanding programmatic advertising. As a marketer and somebody who has done paid ads and targeted ads on social for, nearly 15, 20 years now, you do learn how to serve an ad to a different demographic, age populations, what they're interested in, the types of books they read, the type of music they listen to, the types of movies they watch. It can create little cohorts, which is what famously the Russians were using, that kind of AI-based intelligence to create segmented ads. And I think most Americans heard this narrative. That some of them chose to believe what they were being fed. Some of them recognized and viewed it with skepticism. But my point in that is that's just the ad. Now we're layering in the AI with the money. And the speed with which those ads can now be created in a generative AI way, the targeting that can be done to show a visual that, programmatically is the last thing you just texted, the speed with which now you can personalize those and the speed with which you can pay for that. That's a whole nother ballgame now. And you've got now Elon with probably the biggest show to drop on X, going up against the GOP debate with Tucker Carlson to say, nope, here's the media. Here's where you can come watch it. Now couple all that together, live streaming of the candidate on X, hashtag your favorite Vivek.
Your favorite candidate right now.
Right now we're playing this through. We've talked about this. We've talked about this exact scenario, but you see the pieces of this reality getting stacked, where that scenario, 200 million views on a Twitter video, X video, got more views than the live broadcast on Fox of the GOP debate. Imagine when the fundraising turns on that channel.
Well, how about imagine when Tucker Carlson turns on his crypto wallets? Because how much did he make from subscribers watching that broadcast? Like, what would be his cut of that? Something significant, right?
Sure.
I mean, and it's like they're getting checks sent every month. It's a whole new mechanism to distribute, like you say, content that is, it could be content that is genuine, right? I mean, there's no content clearance that happens on X the same way that, say, CNN or Fox might clear content, clear questions. You can kind of get anything on X. And so that's going to be another area where you just described, like, I imagine that Facebook ad, that whole era where, okay, you can't really believe the advertisements that you're seeing, right? That starts to seep into your mind. But now we're getting to a place, which my mind runs to, which is, well, now we're getting to a place where the content itself, we can't necessarily believe is authentic. Because if it's Carlson and it's Trump, okay, we have a pretty good idea that it's probably going to be really on Tucker Carlson. But there's a whole lot of other people creating content on X that aren't those two people. And so, and what is the validity of it? And people are still going to pay for it. So could you create just an AI feed of just live video content? Probably. Yes,
you could create digital twins that are talking in real time, hundreds of thousands of robots that can answer questions. This leads me back to, I need Vivek's profile authenticated with his clear icon when he's on the video. I need the LinkedIn authenticated symbol, which, by the way, he's going to get from Sundar over at Microsoft. Put on there to say, this is the candidate. They're in the room. We scanned their eyeballs. We know it's them when the one you're watching is really them. It's not the digital twin.
Instead of having a little red dot for live, just going to have like two little eyeball irises for verified. It's what it's coming to.
I'll give one of our listeners in the comment threads was talking about, how do I know it's the two of you? You look like robots. And I sort of laughed to myself. I was like, yeah, it's funny. You could take and create a digital twin, have the AI write the script, have it film. People are doing this and creating content, and there's nothing stopping politicians and candidates from personalizing that story, raising funds off of it. And they're going to need an authentication layer of their human body, their optic ID. So yes, back to Clear and Microsoft. This was huge news last week. I had so much fun digging into this because, it really came to life right here live as we're talking through all of these things. I'm like, oh shit, Microsoft and Clear. And then I saw it was everywhere all week. And I think my objective in re-describing it here is why it's important. Putting it in the context of there's a political election. Here's a really good example at scale of why it's going to be important to authenticate somebody's likeness.
Actually authenticate the humanness. And yeah, for our listeners, to be totally fair, there's software we use as we process these podcasts, that if there's a mistake and someone's name is mispronounced or those words that were used, it shouldn't be, you can go in, type a text prompt, and it will auto remove it and kind of dub in a version of our voice to cover that, even translating us into different languages. So yeah, I mean, it's everywhere. And I'm looking forward to having my eyeballs verified so everyone knows it's me. But speaking about that, those partnerships, like whenever you see a really good partnership hit, it's always important to talk about all the other partnerships that are being announced, I think, in that same window. And this week, of course, had another major announcement, right? We haven't really heard a lot from what might be the Apple Vision Pro competitors, right? We know there's one out there, a big one called Meta. Meta and Zuckerberg like to get in front of Apple during their quiet period. If we can rewind a few episodes back, just before Apple had its special day in Cupertino, if you recall those 2 weeks leading up to it, Zuckerberg was very vocal talking about how many billions of dollars he was going to be pouring into his, Oculus and his new Quest and the metaverse and all this stuff, and on and on and on. But you don't hear too much from Google. And then this week, I felt like it was a little bit out of left field, honestly, was not only an announcement that there is a partnership being worked on between Google and Samsung, but it is for a headset type and augmented, they didn't say augmented, it was an augmented experience. They did some like tooling of the wording of how they referred to what it was going to be. It was going to be an XR something. I don't know if they called it a headset or they seem like they steered around some of the words that Apple uses. But at any rate, the announcement was weird to me because it comes out in the dead middle of summer in a week where there's so much maybe they're trying to bury it, but the announcement is, hey, we're working on something, but it's not going to be here until like really late next year. Which again, it's like, why come out in the dead of summer and tell everybody, hey, A, you probably weren't even expecting this, but B, now that you are, because I'm telling you about it, don't even get too excited because 18 months away from anything that's going to be even remotely usable.
I did just find it, and then I lost it in the same exact moment, but it's extended reality. I think
extended reality.
Yeah. Extended reality headset.
Okay.
Which is interesting. But yeah, after abandoning its own augmented reality glasses efforts under Project Iris, Google is now working hard with Samsung to create an extended reality headset. A fresh report from Business Insider dished out the inside scoop in terms of its development. Project Muhan, which, I think the other thing that I read about this is that after Apple's announcement, they've had to go back to the drawing board a little bit. One of those things where I think in terms of feature parity, they may have been so far behind that they're having to go back. Hence, now let's get out in front of it. Say we're delayed by ourselves a couple of months. People know we're going to, the Apple Vision Pro is going to come out in March deliveries. Ours won't be ready till this time next year. But I think some of those delays are likely the feature parity. But I do think you called Samsung, and you have called them for a long time in terms of don't rule them out. When it comes to the metaverse, that's the biggest screen in your house. And
I got two of them.
One. Yeah.
I got two of them. And look, they have been app enabled forever. They're very lightweight. They're very cost effective. They're beautiful. You can go into your Costco or whatever big box store is in your area. Usually there's some giant fancy Samsung right there in the front showing you beautiful slow motion 4K of some aquarium or something like that. And it's like $400. And that is your view into the metaverse, right? We talked about your hardware is access. Apple has your eyes, your face. It's going to go ahead and let you into its version of the entertainment verse. Well, now Microsoft has your eyes via Clear. So you're going to let you into your version of the business verse. And now Google and Samsung, well, if these guys are the business verse and these guys are the entertainment verse, what are you guys? The tech verse? And so then
everything, it really does become a catch-all, right? If I can log in with my Google and authenticate myself, and now when I'm looking at my TV, I can have anything I want, both on that screen and off of it. I mean, this is, to me, it's interesting to see how these different partnerships have shaped up and who's partnering with who. We've talked about Apple and the banks and some of, that aspect of it. That don't rule that part out too when it comes to payments inside of whatever this big XR extended reality is going to look like. When you think about Google Wallet and the payment mechanism that could then be enabled inside of this extended reality Samsung environment, everybody's going to need to have their little ecosystem, a hardware partner, a tech partner, a payments partner,
a settlement partner, like you're saying. And here's one of that's one of the articles that they made me chuckle this week, is that in a time when I feel like we have talked through, like sometimes we've talked through something to the point where we just kicked the horse just to death, right? And I really did think that CBDCs were something that we had like it was just a thing of the past, right? It was originally this thing that kind of came up and the Democrats liked it. Obviously, the central banks liked it because it is in fact called a central bank digital currency. We've been talking CBDCs for years on the show. And then it just became Bitcoin, and then it just became global currencies, and sort of the CBDC
took over.
Went away. Yeah, the ETS comes. But it's like now it's digital ruble, digital won, digital yuan. They don't say really CBDC, even though that's what it is. So it felt like kind of out of nowhere. And of all people, Citibank comes out of nowhere as if they, for the first time, uncovered this like amazing new thing. They're almost like the little kid who like found the toy in the closet that you hid from them for the year. And they're like, oh, CBDC, maybe that stands for Citibank Digital Currency. Hey, everybody, this thing, this is going to be a fast way to settle debts, guys. This is going to be really a game changer. ACH is 3 days. This is going to be instant. And they're just like out there screaming and cheering and like going on about this great technological find. I mean, that makes me think like, well, hey, don't count out the central banks. They're still going to go do whatever they're going to go do. They're probably going to make CBDCs a thing and use them within themselves. Like, and then it'll just be yet another weird blockchain that will have to get reconciled with FedNow. But tell me about this. What happens with these guys?
2 days ago, CBDCs offer faster settlements, Citi survey of global securities firm. Yeah, I mean, it's just funny that you made the point here that they're like, they discovered this, like the headline, CBDCs offer faster settlement, like as if their survey discovered it. But the one that stands out to me, second paragraph here, this is from Cointelegraph, banking giant Citi's latest edition of its Securities Services Evolution white paper. That's SAE, not to be confused with SEC. The Securities Services Evolution white paper highlighted India's recent move to a T1 settlements, which ensures all trade-related settlements conclude within 24 hours of a transaction. That's super interesting. So layer one, the T1, tier one payment mechanism, and it's straight up calling out that India's move to this new settlement layer.
The digital rupee is making big moves. That's the underlying thing. But it's technology that we know. Like, yeah, everyone is going to need a faster way to settle. I mean, Citibank is maybe trying to scoop the narrative and be more forward leaning. Does Citibank have large operations internationally? I don't know much about them as a business. I just know that you don't hear much from them in the news. I don't know, we've seen their name pop up hardly at all. And they come out like these guys are gurus. Like they went out to the Mount, surveyed everybody and came back and were like, hey, we're about to make, transaction 3X. And it's happening right now. I think if nothing else, don't count out central banks. They're going to be there talking about all the benefits that they're offering their customers. Even if it is derivative and trite based on like what we know is like the current real tech. CBDCs could just be that half step into crypto that most companies take. Like when back in the older days when like your business first came online with corporate email and you're like, well, okay, guys, we have email, but everybody in the company is still writing memos with the pencil and paper, but you check the box. Like maybe you just need to get that CBDC. Okay. Now we're modern, right? Okay. Gosh, now like, let's let, the rest of the world, like the BlackRocks and the others really run with these ETFs. It just seems like it's something that is, it's counter to the ethos of I think where everything is going currently. It's almost like it's a sideways step or a step back. It's like, yeah, this is technology that exists and it's important, but why? Why right now is it important at a time when we're showing, PayPal is about to let you instantly settle with a variety of cryptocurrencies.
I think everybody's trying to catch up, including some of those central banks. I think Citi putting out that kind of a white paper, making headlines with it here in August is about education, probably more so a signal to their other institutional clients. So if they have other businesses that have business banking at Citi, and maybe they're, in closed door meetings with their giant merchants saying, hey, we're going to move your payment processing onto these new PYUSD through our guys over at Coinbase are going to be watching our move. Just want to let you know that's happening. We're going to put out these papers over the next couple of months to let, the retail investor know what these CBDCs are. You'll see it on our LinkedIn, that kind of thing. And they're telling their business clients, hey, check our news. So then when they get this news article that's like, CBDCs offer faster transaction payments. Yeah, no shit. That this has been around for a while, but to Citi, they're now holding that up. They can shop it around and say, look, we told everybody we were doing this. You guys cool? Everyone cool? Coinbase, you good? Everybody good?
I mean, even if someone just copy and pasted whatever the code was and just dropped it in, right? I mean,
Copy pasta.
Any altcoin, any Pepe or whatever the current de jure altcoin, the Doge, whatever, what it's taking, but like anything could be that settlement layer. It just so happens the Citibanks can steal that narrative. Another one that we saw this week that I thought was really interesting in one of those moments where, no matter how gully you and how, untouchable you think you are, Mr. Musk, you've acquired the platform Twitter and rebranded it X. You still in this time where there is no regulatory certainty around what are securities and what are commodities. And we're still waiting for it to get to the fall. We'll have some true legislation. He likes to go and just troll, right? He trolls on his platform. He buys the platform. He trolls people about cryptocurrencies and whatever. And the SEC can't get him because it's not a security yet, right? And he loves it. But then out of nowhere, the DOJ shows up and is like, hey, these crypto tweets or whatever, that's not our business. But you've been tweeting a lot about what we think are unfair hiring practices for one of your other companies, SpaceX. And that's an interesting thing because you're hiring all these people and your partnerships, there's international employees who want to work with you. So we're going to sue you. We're going to sue you over one of your X posts that sort of suggests that and I think there's the list of countries, but there was something where they were deliberately not hiring from countries where they were like refugee status. I mean, it's very complicated.
Discrimination against refugees.
And it feels like someone really went deep on this one, like got down into the carpet and just dug around until somebody found the like little broken piece of toothpick that got stuck in my foot. I was like, this is all the bad shit you've been doing. This is it. And now we're going to sue you. So it was like, talk about the way to end a week where, rockets landing on the moon, things falling out of the sky. You got the Fed in Wyoming. You got India rising on the geopolitical stage. You got BRICS conferences with key members missing. You got CBDCs, you got GOP. And it's like, but you still don't forget about Musk. Remember me, everybody? I'm the reason why you love your car, but hate your feed. And I am in trouble with the law again. Even though his customer is the Department of Defense, he's getting sued by the Department of Justice. I mean,
it is interesting though, when you talk about money, power, technology, the Justice Department's claiming that that SpaceX should only hire US citizens. So the control over the information, over where the satellites get deployed, over what goes on the rocket, over who makes it to the moon. I mean, you think about that control over the money, the ability to have global funding. All of a sudden, he's got technology. Elon Musk has technology in his hand that at one point in time, and for probably more than 100, 200 years, was maintained by the government. And it's not like we've been flying rockets for 200 years, right? Not been that long, but now you've got a private citizen with a lot of money with that kind of power and control. I'm going to leave it there. Final thoughts as we head and finish out what will be the last full week. The next time we talk will be September.
Well, it's accumulate. So, but while these interest rates are relatively low, not financial advice, but I'm going to try to borrow some money and maybe get a little Bitcoin bag just in time for the full moon, the blue moon.
Enjoy it. We'll talk at the next blue moon, sir. We'll do it again.
All right. Talk to you later.
That's all the time we have for Off the Record, On the Rocks. Join us next week for news and all things crypto. Bring up the house lights. It's last call.